Hey YouTube, this is Bad Movie Mark of the Bad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1958 romantic comedy Indiscreet. Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't expect that. That's very nice of you. I'm reviewing every movie that has 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm giving them all a score of 1 to 10. After I watch them and score them all, I will rank them from worst to best. I started in the 1920 silent movie era, and now I'm in 1958 with Indiscreet. This movie has 100% fresh rating from the critics. Oh, yikes. 69% fresh rating from the audience. Oh, that's terrible. I think this is the largest gap we've had between audience and critics so far. So before I start, I just want to remind everyone that I've uploaded all of my video reviews to the new YouTube podcast option. So if you download the free YouTube music app, apparently you can watch them all as video podcasts, which I hear is a lot easier way to watch them if you're on a mobile device. So this movie stars Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman. Now this is the fourth movie that I've reviewed with Cary Grant this far. The other three were Holiday, The Philadelphia Story, and Only Angels Have Wings. Ingrid Bergman, this is the first movie I've ever reviewed with her, but I've also seen Casablanca and Notorious, starring her. So in this movie, Ingrid Bergman, she plays a character named Anna. Anna is the famous star of stage. She is a famous actress, and when we first meet her, she is at home. She has just returned early from a vacation that she was on. Now, I think it's her butler and her maid. They see the light on in the house, and they enter it not knowing what's going on. And they see her, and they wonder why she's home early. She was supposed to be out with this guy. They're supposed to be having a great time. And she simply tells her maid that she didn't like this guy, so she decided to come home early. There was no real attraction. There were no sparks. And she says, you can't expect guys to talk and to be intellectual and to have a brain. They just stand there and look good. That's all you can expect from men. You go back there.
You were impressed with him when you first met him.
I hadn't heard the dozen words.
I don't know what you expect from a man. You know, there's a limit to how entertaining they can be.
Well, they ought to be able to talk a little. Simple sentences.
You told me that he was good-looking and that he danced beautifully. That's all a woman's entitled to.
Basically says, no, that's not what I want to do. So while she's at home sulking, her brother-in-law comes over with her sister, and with them they bring Philip. Philip is played by Cary Grant. He is this debonair, dashing young gentleman, and she falls madly in love with him, love at first sight.
And my sister-in-law, Miss Anna Kalman.
How do you do?
How do you do? Miss Kalman is no stranger to me. I've seen you often on the stage. I'm a fervent admirer.
Why, thank you, kind sir.
The reason why he is there is her brother-in-law is trying to get him to join NATO. Apparently, her brother-in-law works for NATO. Philip is a great economist, and he is trying to pull him into this job. We then see Philip giving a speech, an economic speech. I'm assuming it's at a NATO event. Not 100% sure, but he's giving this speech. Everyone cheers and claps and is very excited for him. When they get back home, Anna's brother-in-law and sister, they excuse themselves, and Philip and Anna have a great conversation. She tells Philip that she has these tickets to the ballet and asks if he wants to go. He says, I'm going to have to tell you something. I'm married, so I can't go with you. Of course, Anna is taken aback by this. She's very, flabbergasted. She says, you gave all these hints and all these signals that you were single, and I thought we would be able to date and have a great time. And he says, yeah, I know. I didn't want to come out and tell you that I was married. We were having this good time. And she says, well, at least you told me, because some guys don't say that they're married. They just, they'll lie to you and they'll say something ridiculous, like they're in a marriage and they can't get out of it. But, thank you for telling me that you were married. He's, oh, yes, of course. That's the only big thing of me to do. That's all I could do is be honest with you and tell you that I'm married.
I'm a married man, Miss Kalman. Well, I'm sorry. I'm awfully sorry. It's been on my conscience all evening.
Yes, I must say you've been palming yourself off as a single man.
So then he excuses himself and he leaves. She immediately jumps up to the phone, and she's living in like a hotel, I think, and she calls the front desk and she says, "Stop that man when he comes downstairs." So they stop him, and she says, "Hey, I know you're married, but I still want to go out with you. I still feel like this is something we should pursue because I like you, so let's do it." So he agrees. She has tickets to the ballet, so they're going to go to the ballet. And then the weird stuff, I don't know, in my opinion, the weird stuff starts happening. So when they go out, a mob of people just rush to Anna because they recognize her as a star of stage, and they're asking her for their autograph. And this one girl, I think she's from Australia, is asking for her autograph, and she has this really weird, like, pitched, it's not a really high pitched voice, but it's just so different than everything else in the movie that it just seems weird. It's a very weird scene. I don't know why they decided to do that.
Excuse me. Oh, Miss Calman, please, for my daughter. She lives in Australia. Would you write to Kittykins? That's her name. Well, it's her nickname, really. Her name's Catherine, but we always call her Kittykins. She'll be just thrilled to get it.
So they end up going and they have dinner, and while they're having dinner, this weird like music is playing. It's your typical violins, your typical stringed instruments that you would see in a romantic movie, but it just doesn't fit the scene to me. It's so bizarre, their choice of music here. And then he ends up telling her about a story where he, as a kid, he had this recital where he played the violin, and he went up to on stage to play the violin, and everyone laughed at him because he was left-handed. Apparently that's a hilarious story. She thought it was funny. I didn't get it. I was like, what? Okay, like, why? I don't understand why he told the story or why he thought it was funny. So anyway, they have a good time. They have a lot of laughs. We progressively see the relationship blossom and the relationship bloom, and they start falling more and more for each other. And then one day he tells her that he has to go to France because he's actually going to join NATO, and he has to go to France first because that's where everyone who joins NATO goes first. So they end up seeing each other. They fly and coast to coast and see each other when they have to. They talk on the phone. There's a very famous scene. It's a split screen where they're talking to each other on the phone. I think it's famous because it's one of the first times they've ever done like split screens in a movie. At least that's what I've read.
Hi.
10 seconds late. Last night it was 7, the night before 5. I can see the handwriting on the wall. You're cooling.
Hardly. How was your day?
Fine.
So the relationship's going fine, and then one day he tells her that he's being reassigned to go to New York. Now, she gets very upset here because she doesn't know how this is going to work. She doesn't want him to go to New York, and she blurts out, like, "Can you just leave your wife and marry me, please?" And then she kind of rolls up into a ball, and she says, oh my God, I shouldn't have asked you that. That was crazy of me. Like, I know how you feel about marriage. I know you're married. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I'm so stupid. Why did I ask you to marry me?
Could you possibly get a divorce and marry me? Oh, I don't know why I said that. Oh, please forgive me. I don't know what came over me.
Anna,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Anna,
I had no right, and I know that.
This scene bothered me. This scene bothered me quite a bit. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I was very bothered by this scene. Similar, I don't know if you've seen my review of The Holiday, which was a musical. Similar with that movie. And I know this is a comedy, and it's like a romantic comedy, and things aren't supposed to work out. There's supposed to be some sort of issue in the middle with the couple, and then at the end they get together, and that's basically the blueprint of a romantic comedy. They have some sort of issue, but they end up together anyway. But first of all, I just want to say my feelings about this is that if you're in a relationship and you're you're terrified to tell your significant other about how you're feeling about something, or about an emotion that you're feeling, or about a problem that you're having, or an issue that you're having, or you just want to talk and get something off your chest. If any of these things ever occur and you're afraid to talk to your significant other, and you're afraid that if you ask like a question and that you're not, and you think you have to like walk on eggshells around them when it concerns this one question, you're with the wrong person. And as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, I don't want you two to be together anymore, because clearly this is a relationship that's not working the way you want it to work. If you are afraid to ask him to leave his wife and to marry you after you've been together, after you've like had this chemistry with each other, he's clearly only seeing you because like all of his time is with you. So obviously there's some reason why he's not seeing his wife. And he's not giving you the real reason as to why he can't get divorced. He just gave you this BS story, not even a story. He just gave you this BS explanation that, oh, I'm in a marriage and I can't get out of it. If he can't share more details with you, and he can't be upright with you, and he can't tell you the truth, and you guys can have a conversation about this, then you should just be with someone else. Like, I know she's in love and these are the feelings that she feels, but this is a relationship that is only going to continue to hurt you. And you're only going to continue to be more and more guarded about what you say around him. Maybe another issue is going to come up that you can't talk to him about. So then you're guarded about something else. You can't continue to be guarded about situations around someone that you love and around someone that you want to be with. It's just not the way you should live your life. Anyway, that's my soapbox about that. So after she kind of curls up into a ball of regret for asking this, he says, oh, let's just forget you asked the question. Let's just forget about it. It's fine. I'm going to go to New York. We're still going to be together. We're going to have this relationship. Water under the bridge. Let's just forget you asked. So he then goes and he plays pool with her brother-in-law. And while he's playing pool with him, the brother-in-law says, hey, I have a question for you. Why are you telling people you're married when you're not? And Philip's all like, how did you know about that? How could you possibly know that I'm not really married? And the brother-in-law says, well, you see, you fill out an application for NATO. We do a pretty extensive background check for NATO. So, yeah, it was right there. Like I didn't really have to do that much digging. It's part of the background check.
Why do you pretend to be a married man when you're not?
How did you know?
Well, they make quite a security check.
You really should have thought this through before you applied for NATO and started dating my sister-in-law. And then Philip gives this really weird answer as to the fact that he doesn't want to ever get married. He likes being single, but he feels like when he's in a relationship and if he tells a woman that he wants to get married, it's like a challenge to them. And they're going to keep nagging at him and keep bothering him and keep guilt tripping him until he just doesn't want to be in the relationship anymore. So in his opinion, it's better for everyone if he just lies to the one that he's with, and he just strings them along, and eventually if they find out he's married, he could just leave. It's just better for everyone that way. When in reality, it's way better for him that way. Not anyone else. It's way better for him. So the brother-in-law says, this isn't my fight. I'm just a brother-in-law. I don't care that much. You just do what you're going to do. And then that's pretty much the whole conversation. So now Philip, his plan is to take a boat to New York, but he decides he's not going to do this. He instead is going to take a plane. That way he can spend more time with Anna because the plane will be faster than the boat. Now, Anna thinks that he's taking a boat, so she decides that she's going to take a plane to New York to see him when his boat lands, when his boat docks. She tells the story to her brother-in-law. Her brother-in-law knows that Philip is planning to fly as opposed to taking a boat. So, he kind of reluctantly tells Anna that there's no reason for you to take a plane because Philip's trying to surprise you and he wants to spend more time with you. So, you don't have to, you can cancel your plans. Then she gets kind of emotional. She starts crying happy tears because she says that Philip loves her more than anything else in the world, and that he just wants to be with her, and he wants to be with her longer, and she's never like been this happy in her life. And then her sister breaks the news to her. Her sister says, Philip's not a good guy because he's actually not married. And her husband, or Anna's brother-in-law, says, how did you know that? And her sister says, well, you had some NATO documents open on your desk. I just read them. And then her husband's like, I forbid you to read any notes without my overseeing you. You know, like a husband would back then. Yeah, that's not going to fly. It's not going to fly today. It's just so, watching that today, it's just so ridiculous. If I ever told my wife that you can never read anything on my desk unless I'm there, she would laugh in my face, and she would let me know she's boss because she is the boss. So that would never fly today. Anyway, Anna then gets very upset, and now she's like no longer crying happy tears, but she's like mad because her boyfriend has lied to her about being married.
Not be a married man. Damn!
Astonishing. What was that?
Perfume bottle through the mirror.
So, she does what any normal person would do in this situation. She decides that she's going to have a conversation with her husband, with her boyfriend, let her know what her feelings are, let her know that she's upset, ask why he did this, what his motives were, if he actually is serious about a relationship. What two people in a couple will do. They'll sit down, they'll have a conversation, they'll talk to each other, and they'll hash it out. Of course, that's not what she does at all. No. Because then you have no story. There needs to be conflict in a romantic comedy. There's no lines of communication here. Instead, she decides she's going to try to make him jealous, and by doing this, she takes her butler. So while Philip's in the room, she schedules someone to call her so she can answer the phone and pretend like the person on the other end is David, who is a former boyfriend of hers. When she does this, Philip does get angry. He storms out of the door, but then he comes back in, he realizes maybe he overreacted, and he apologizes to her. Not the kind of apology that he got when she asked him to marry. No, not at all. It's more of a tossed aside apology. There's, it's how guys were back then, basically, which is terrible. So she then decides to carry it a step further, and she knows that Philip is going to visit her at midnight one night. So she asks her butler, David, or her butler, not David. She asks her butler to go into the other room, and then when Philip walks in, he is to open the door and shut it, and Philip will think it's David at her house having a rendezvous. She has a couple plates set to make it look like there's two people having dinner. She has the whole thing set up to where it looks like she's cheating on Philip with David.
Some more. I'm thinking of playing a practical joke on a friend of mine, and I wonder if you care to help me.
Oh, certainly he will.
Practical joke?
Yes.
Will anybody be hurt?
Not physically.
It's none of your business.
Well, I only asked as I'm the one who...
What do you want him to do?
Exactly at midnight. I want him to open that door and let Mr. Adams see you. Just for 1 second. Then jump back into the room and close the door behind you.
So when David comes into the door, it happens just exactly how she wants it to. Her butler opens the door and closes it, and only Philip is there to propose marriage. He says, hey, I was able to leave my wife, and I'm able to get married to you now. But as soon as he sees the door open and shut, he immediately thinks it's David. He storms out of the room. He says, I hope you two are happy together. We'll never be together. Forget the marriage proposal. And he then comes back in because he wants to talk to David or meet David, and he realizes that it's just the butler and that she was playing this trick on him, and she knows all about the fact that he wasn't married. And she says, well, it could have been a great relationship we could have had, but clearly we're not meant to be married. And he says, why not? I said we're getting married, and we're getting married. And then they embrace each other, and I'm assuming at the end is when they're supposed to be married. I'm assuming that's they eventually be together, which I would not have recommended at all. So this movie to me is a very flat movie. It's a very run-of-the-mill movie. There's nothing inspiring about it to me. The comedy is not funny. I don't think I laughed at all once in this movie ever. The relationship is dull. I felt no chemistry between these two people at all. I mean, sure, there's scenes of them like acting like couples and being a couple, but I felt no chemistry between these two. They were just, as soon as I found out he was married, and as soon as I found out, as soon as I found out he was married, I just didn't think of them as a couple. I just thought of them as like a rendezvous. I just thought of them as, meeting up with each other. And then the whole idea of a romantic comedy just left my brain. I'm like, I have no reason to root for this man. If he's married, and if he actually is married, even if he says he can't get out of the marriage, he doesn't explain why. So to me, it's BS. It's a red flag. He's lying to her, and he's a terrible person, and I have no reason to root for him. And as soon as she curled up into that ball and started apologizing, I said, this almost seems like it's like an emotionally abusive relationship, even though they don't give us like any other reasons to believe that. But just the fact that she emotionally believes that she can't have this conversation with him, to me, I can't root for this as a relationship. I can't root for them to be together. And then at the end, when she tries to like trick him, and then they end up, I would rather her have tricked him and then left and said, okay, like it's over. Like, I don't want to be with you anymore. There's no reason to root for them as a couple. I found no reason to root for them as a couple. The relationship's not charming. The relationship isn't whimsy. I mean, if you're going to have a romantic comedy, I feel like there has to be some sort of charm or some sort of whimsy, some sort of like charismatic force that these two people should be together. But there's no reason. It just doesn't work. As a movie, to me, it doesn't work at all. The music, like I said earlier, was really weird. There's that really weird scene where that girl has a high-pitched voice for no reason. I'm not sure why they made that choice. The cinematography is just, it's par. I will say that famous scene with the split screen, maybe that's why this movie has a 100% fresh rating. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like there's anything in this movie that makes it stand out. Like, this is a very forgettable movie for me. When I think of Cary Grant, I'm not going to think of this character. I'm not going to think of this movie. I bet in like a month I will have forgot that I even watched this movie, which is one reason why I'm doing these YouTube reviews, is so that I can go back and say, oh yeah, I hated that movie. But this movie doesn't work for me in any way. It's like a movie that you would play on like KTLA 5 on like a Saturday like afternoon or something. I don't know. It's just not a movie that deserves any real attention. I feel like I almost wasted my life watching it. That being said, compared to other movies that I've watched and didn't like, I would say that there are things that are better about this movie. The acting's not great, but it's okay. It's passable. The script isn't great, but it's passable. Also, it's a very par movie. It's very what you would expect from the time, but nothing too fantastic is what I would say. And I really am getting tired of movies where people don't talk to each other. Now, I realize in a romantic comedy there has to be some sort of conflict. There has to be usually some sort of way that one person gets back at another. There has to be some sort of in the middle, something went wrong. Man meets woman, something goes wrong. There's some sort of misunderstanding, and then at the end, woman and man end up together. Copy and paste for like the next 60 years, basically. That's how I view a lot of these romantic comedies, and it's the romantic comedies that break this mold, that break this blueprint, that break this script, that are the great ones. And this is not it. Even comedies before this, there were romantic comedies that had the same blueprint. It's basically the blueprint that's been around forever. And in order for a romantic comedy to be great, I feel like it needs to break out of this cycle. It needs to show me something new, show me something different. And this movie has nothing new or different to offer. And it's just a mediocre movie. And the audience giving it a 69% to me is close to what it deserves. I'm going to give it a little bit less. I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10, which is about a 65%, which will be the lowest Cary Grant movie that I've reviewed thus far. But before, Cary Grant had a lot of big people around him, a lot of really great. I'm not saying Ingrid Bergman is a bad actress, because she's a great actress. She's one of the greatest actresses who ever lived. But they just don't have the chemistry that he has with other female actresses that I've seen him in. He just doesn't have other movies I've seen him in. They've paired him with a playful actress, or they've paired him with someone who can outwit him and outsmart him. But I just don't see that in this movie. It's just not there, and it's sad. It's sad that this movie is not as great as I hoped it would be. But like I said, I'm giving it a 6.5 out of 10. I hope you join me for my next movie, which is going to be King Soroli, I believe it's called. First movie I've ever seen with Elvis Presley, and I did not know he was in a movie that had 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's a bit exciting. I didn't expect it, so we'll see how I enjoy it when my next review comes out. Hope you have a great day.